But yeah, so I applied early, and I sort of knew that because I'd heard it actually from my McKinsey colleagues that like it's actually not, the odds are still really low of getting them. So what it does is it forces you to take your standardized testing. It forces you to get your recommendations in order. It gives you kind of like a test run of what it's going to look like, right? Like when you actually apply. And that's actually what all my mentors told me. They were like, just apply. You're probably not going to get in. Right. So don't walk in assuming you'll get in. Walk in assuming that at least you'll have some shit done for the future. Definitely. So that's how I approached it. Like I really approached it like that, to the point where I was like, this is such a like shot in the dark. Like, you know, I got my interviews. I was like, oh, this is a shot in the dark. Like I'm not really like nervous or worried. I'm so sorry. My like doorbell is ringing right now.
Yeah, go for it.
Back in.
Yeah, no, totally, go for it.
Okay, so basically, I wasn't really sure whether I didn't do it assuming I would get in. But when I did get in, of course, like so excited, so thrilled, couldn't believe it. Literally, like actually, crazy story. So I don't know how it's done now, but it used to be that Harvard comes out on one day and then Stanford comes out the day after.
Right.
So I got an email from Harvard saying like, congratulations, welcome to 2+2. I get a phone call from a random number, and I'm like, oh, it's like, I kind of knew like, oh, they call you to like congratulate you, etc. So I pick up and they go like, hi, is this Nandini? I'm like, yeah, is this Harvard? And they're like, no, this is Stanford.
Oh, damn.
I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, congratulations, you got in. I was like, wait, what? And I was like, really? Like, I thought someone was pranking me. So my email, like my first, like not my official acceptance, because that comes the day after, but I get an email from Stanford, like the person who I spoke to being like, that was not a joke. Like you are actually in. And I was like, this is a crazy, crazy day. It was one of like the, you know, it really like was such a defining moment of my life because it gave me so much flexibility to, you know, like to like play around with like the 2 years that I had in front of me. And, you know, so I did McKinsey, did it for a year, didn't get my H-1B, so went back to India.
Gotcha.
And was like, oh, let me try being an investor for a little bit because...
So you had basically 2 more years left until you came back, or how did it work? Like 1 year. Got you.
Yeah, because I had 2 years and then I used one of those to like be at McKinsey. And then the second year I was like, nah, I don't need to, like I've done McKinsey. I definitely could be doing something fun. Like, let me see. I hadn't spent time in India since I was 15. So I was like, oh, let me go see the market, see what it's like. So I went and worked in impact investing in India.
Gotcha.
And I, you know, you never know how life like
plays out
you on, right? Yeah. When I made my decision about HBS versus Stanford, which was in like May 2017, I kind of was like, you know, I want to go down the GSP path because I think I want to be an entrepreneur. I know I'm going to want to build something, like all of that.
Yeah.
Through that, right, I like meet some other Stanford India people. When I moved to Bangalore, one of them is like, oh, I'm actually hosting a dinner. Why don't you join my dinner that I'm like having? So I land at 8 a.m. on a Monday, and at 8 p.m. I go to this dinner.
Right.
And I end up sitting next to this founder who's like, oh, I'm building this online tutoring company. We want to do like personalized learning. Like it basically sounded like this vision of like, can you make like Exeter, which is a school that has a $1.2 billion endowment, can you like actually make something like that accessible to like 1.2 billion Indians? And I loved the idea. I was like so sold on what he was building, and it actually sounded like something that I would be like, oh yeah, this is what I would want to build post GSV.
Right.
I actually ended up quitting my job and joining as head of product at this guy's startup. I also ended up marrying him. So that ended up really...
That's a twist, damn. Okay.
So that ended up being a really... Again, you never know. It's like, like I think choosing Stanford, choosing the entrepreneurial path and choosing that direction, it led me along to find someone who was equally aligned to the value set that I had, which was impact, entrepreneurship, building something, independence, like this life that's like bigger than just like what you want and your own like money and fame and whatnot. So I always think it's really interesting to like when people are like, oh, how do you meet someone? I'm like, you should really think about like, what are the values you hold and what are the values you would want that person to have? Because then why not like you should put yourself in situations where you're likely to meet someone who fits those things.
Right. I'm actually
story there.
No, that's a great story. I spurred a thought. So I'm a student of psychology. I love studying psychology, and it seems like throughout this whole story you were saying, you have a very keen sense of purpose. Like with Auntie being the match, or your Nani being a matchmaker, you kind of imbibed a lot of your sense of purpose to the point where you were ready in your mind of what the person who you would potentially see as a partner, you had those qualities ready. I feel like a lot of people who struggle in dating today, they don't know who they are. They don't, understand their identity. They don't have clarity over the sense of purpose. So when they look for someone to complete them, they don't know what they're looking for. So do you think that's something modern dating combats?
It's actually, I think, modern life, right? I think
right.
we are almost like surrounded by so many like things and options, whether it's like what career, like you look on Instagram, it's like, oh, what destination should I go to for my holiday? Like there's so much optionality in every part of our lives that we sometimes end up being like, well, there could be something better out there. And we don't spend enough time thinking, like you said, what do we really want, right? Like, and it's like, I think that like one thing that has really been my thing in life is that I tend to be a very reflective person, and I spend a lot of time like actually thinking about like what I want from a situation and like why. Like people are always surprised by my. Sorry, I'm gonna talk this about this.
I know the struggle.
Actually, like why these things not having a try.
Oh, that's what your light looks like. I got this like Amazon ring light thing. So this thing. Wait, oops.
that was okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think like through my life, I've really like been like very deliberate about like how do I want to navigate things. People are always surprised by like, Indian girl goes to like boarding school in New Hampshire, like what that. And I've always been a bit like, okay, well, what's this step going to take me to the next step, and what's the next step going to be? I try to think like further up ahead. And that's been something that's really, really important. So I will say like that being rational is really important. And it's sort of like contrast to like what I say about being romantic, because I love romance, but I'm actually pretty rational when it even comes to love, where I think that one of the, well, it's all funny how these all things rotate back to like invisible.
Yeah.
In May 2017, clearly a moment of my life that was really important. I actually went to revisit Stanford, right? And yes, to like kind of just see where do I see myself going to school. And once I'd gotten in, and I was there when Sheryl Sandberg was speaking, who's always been someone I really look up to. And she was doing a closed door view from the top. She's also like, this was right actually after her husband had passed away very suddenly on a treadmill. And she was talking, she had stopped talking about lean in, and she was really talking about plan B and like grief and moving on in life partnership. And I remember someone asked a question, which was, when you were in our seats and it was like, another young woman, it's like, what was the piece of advice you wish someone had told you? And she said that the most important decision you make in your life is who you pick as your life partner. 100%. And that's the highest correlation to your professional success, your happiness, and like the end of life satisfaction. And I just remember hearing that and being like, yes, that makes sense, because ultimately, whether you work at McKinsey or Goldman Sachs, whether you go to Harvard or Stanford, whether you go to VC or become a private equity guy, like these all feel like much more small decisions that are not going to be so dramatically different and not so irreversible. But this decision of picking your life partner, it just was like, it haunted me in a way that I couldn't really describe it. It's like, wow, she's like, hit the nail on it. This is going to be the most important decision of my life. So I better be approaching this with the same degree of thoughtfulness that I am approaching my career, my colleges, my grad school, like all of these things. And I actually went home and broke up with the guy I was dating, like immediately. Like it was like
after that,
this is not who I want to be. Not after that, meaning like 1 hour after that, I left Stanford.
My God.
And broke up with him and was like,
so interesting.
I know the journey my life's taking, and this is not the journey I'm going to be happy with. And so I really like hopefully one day I will meet her and I'll get to share what a massive impact she's on my life because of this. And I still think about it. So it's again, those like connective threads like throughout that come in. So I spent a year in India, met my now husband. We like built a edtech company together. Got to see like early stage startup life, like got to go through fundraise, got to go through like co-founder drama, like
Mhm.
went like 0 to 1 product building, like
Right.
working with engineers, like
Mhm.
really like for someone who studied politics in school, this was trial by fire. Because I had so much expertise in education, it was easy enough to be a product manager. I think like given that I had never done product before,
Yeah.
I would have really struggled if I didn't have like a very clear vision of like, this is actually what we need to build. And it felt like these ideas had been sitting in my head for a really long time.
Right.
And then I was like with a heavy heart that I actually left and went back to school because I committed that I was going in 2 years.
So
And
you were doing long distance with your then partner?
Yeah.
I mean now partner as well. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But it's still, I actually love the word partner more than I love the word husband because I think
Gotcha.
it's so much more descriptive of
Right.
like what our dynamic is, it's not like
Right.
husband wife. We're actually like we're
Life
partners.
partners. Right. 100%.
And so I did long distance. Yeah. So I did long distance and we were doing SF to Bombay
Oh,
while
wow.
I was at business school and he was building like a Series A company. So crazy pressure to put on a relationship. But to me, again, you pick people who get it, right?